And I want to bring in former NYPD detective Marq Claxton of the Black Law Enforcement Alliance for more on this case and the general topic of race and policing that this once again ignites. Mark, the police chief, Tim Gannon, released this body cam video yesterday saying the shooting appeared to be accidental and that the officer likely meant to draw her taser instead of her gun. We heard the Wright family there, or at least Daunte's dad, say that he doesn't accept that. You've been in the line of duty. What was your reaction when you saw the video?
Well, my initial reaction is that it seems as if we're stuck in this tragic time loop. It's sort of like being the character, Bill Murray's character in Groundhog's Day, where you repeat this episode and these incidents time and time again. This isn't the first time that a police officer has discharged their firearm and fatally injured someone. Oscar Grant, 2009. There was a Mr. Bates in Oklahoma, where a volunteer sheriff's deputy used the same quote-unquote excuse about an accident being confused between the taser and the firearm. So there's a history of this. And we can have these discussions about, principles such as proportionality or use of force, a critical decision-making process. But until we acknowledge and address the pink elephant in the room, that the guidelines, the rules, the regulations, and even too often the law are no match for toxic police culture, which is propped up by both implicit and explicit bias, intolerance, and racism, and too often leads to these totally avoidable situations that turn fatal more often than not. We'll be back here again.
Now, you're talking about history repeating itself. Well, we're seeing that in the protests and demonstrations that are happening as well. As usual, we're seeing peaceful protests during the day, but that's changing at night. There's already a curfew in place. The police chief is saying that some officers were injured last night and some 40 people were arrested. So what's the best way for police to deal with this and try to bring the temperature down?
Well, first, let me say that, I'm supportive of peaceful demonstrations and protests, but I'm not confused about why the level of anxiety and anger is high. But like I said, if we continue to have these types of incidents, people begin to react in ways that are uncomfortable and dangerous, not only for themselves, but for the professional police officers out there charged with securing the street. The police have to get to the point, or have to be forced into the point, where they realize that there are consequences for behavior. And until you enforce some consequences against police who operate outside of their responsibilities or who operate under the color of law, until you really enforce some discipline against them, these incidents will continue to occur. And they will continue to occur in the Black and brown communities primarily, because that's what history has told us. So until we get to the point where we can even acknowledge that the policing has become overly aggressive, overly militarized, and race-based, we'll be back at this point again, perhaps in another town with a similar storyline.
Now, Maryland passed police reform measures this week that would repeal job protections in the police disciplinary process and increase the civil liability limit on lawsuits against police. What effect do you think that could have? Could we see other states follow suit there? And what are some other reforms that you'd like to see?
I think the Maryland reforms are significant, and the reason is because police operate with two realities. It's either the carrot or the stick. So for policing, if you want change, either you incentivize or you penalize. And I think a removal of some of the artificial protections that were set up to protect police from full accountability is very helpful in reform. I think what's been done in New York is significant when you eliminate qualified immunity, and it's done in other jurisdictions as well. I think what is occurring in other jurisdictions that have decided to limit the input of police unions into areas other than health benefits, salary, because around this nation, there are police organizations and unions who have significant input into the rules and regulations of the very agencies that they have members that they have to represent. And that's wrong. So if we increase police exposure and accountability, you'll see significant behavior modification.
And Marq, specific to this case, as you said, this isn't the first time that we're hearing about the possibility of an officer confusing their gun for a taser. So could we see more changes to the taser, maybe a different kind of trigger mechanism so it's not possible to confuse it for a gun? Do you think we could see some concrete changes like that?
I think it is a mistake to address this issue and these type of incidents as if they are training issues. They aren't training issues. And to establish that quite clearly, the one common factor in all of these quote unquote accidents where you confuse the taser for a firearm is that the victims are Black. So let's begin to analyze and take a look at that. And keep in mind, in Minnesota, after the killing of Philando Castile, there was significant monies into a fund, a training fund, to help police improve their response and to prevent these type of tragedies. Well, here we are some years later, and we're still facing the same challenges. So this is not merely a training issue. All professionals need additional training, continued training and education. That's understandable. But this is larger, deeper. The pathology of these issues is outside the realm of training and tactics.
All right, Marq Claxton, it's always great to have your analysis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.